Good morning, Boone County and beyond. It is Saturday, March 28th. I'm your host, Bud Wiry, and you're in the shop. So, guys, another bad piece of news for Lebanon residents over there. I was sitting the other day taking the location of the meta development and where they're putting this proposed adjacent 65 natural gas, 2,700 horsepower natural gas generators that they're looking to power the meta facility with. And they say it's temporary until Boone Power is able to provide permanent power. But I wouldn't completely count on that. This is a pretty substantial build of a natural gas power plant, so I wouldn't actually bet that it ever stops. But anyway, it's going to run 24/7 to power this meta facility, and by the location of the meta facility and this adjacent power plant, pretty much all of the pollution from these things running will be drafting right into the Lebanon area because most of the wind comes out of the west in one angle or another, predominantly. So that's going to mean that most of the time Lebanon's going to have this. And really, there's an IDEM permit that they're requesting for this because it's a mass polluter. And I mean, I encourage everybody to reach out to these. I don't know if the window's still open to be able to contact them about this, but it's one of those things that, I mean, given the location that they're looking to put this and the normal wind directions, everybody really ought to take that into account because basically Lebanon is going to be a direct hit for the pollution that's coming out of all these natural gas generators. So I mean, and the noise and everything else. That's going to be a big thing too. That everybody, and we covered that these natural gas generators can crank 95 decibels. So this is going to be like a giant humming that may carry over too, and because the wind comes out of that same direction that would carry the pollution from these things running into Lebanon would also help carry the sound that way too. So it's really just more bad news for a community that continues to get the short end of the stick. And while everybody there may not be realizing it all at once, I mean, think about it. It's pretty brutal. I mean, Lebanon is sitting there and just this normal, quaint little country town, pretty much. And now all of a sudden, it's getting new chemicals in its water. It's getting air pollution. It's getting noise pollution. It's getting light pollution. Their traffic's jacked. I mean, that's a pretty bad row. And I've given some groups here locally a pretty hard time. So earlier this week, I seen Matt Gentry post that the Kiwanis had invited him out to talk about all the good things that are happening in the city of Lebanon. And I posted out, and I even posted to the Kiwanis page, like, so you guys support all this pollution that's coming into town, all this water. I mean, Lebanon's literally getting ready to be the first toilet to tap drinking water system in our state. This is ridiculous. But you're going to tell me, so they're going to talk about all the good things, and I posted on their page asking these questions about the pollution and this and that, and they responded back that they were a community group. They just hearing what's going on, and they were there for the kiddos. Okay, so you're telling me that these people, and then I started looking on the board, guys. Guess who's on the board of the Kiwanis? Oh, we have Ed from the Lebanon Utilities, the GM, the guy that is locally famous for saying that the wastewater would actually make the water sports better at the Eagle Creek Reservoir. So he was on the board of the Kiwanis. And then you have Mike Kincaid as a part of it, who's one of the Lebanon City Council members that have been voting this. So then you're looking at it, and all you can do is laugh because these guys are literally just fluffing themselves with these things. They're sitting there and they got their own people in these other groups, and then Gentry post about how, oh, the Kiwanis invited me out to talk about all these good things that we're doing for it's them. They are inviting themselves out. They're trying to make their own narrative there, and if nobody ever looks, it doesn't get caught. But that's really what's happened. They got a lot of people on the Kiwanis that are a part of the Gentry administration and their team and their little thing, and they're trying to fluff themselves. So I got a good laugh out of that because it's one of those things. It would be hilarious if it wasn't so infuriating, because they're trying to just create an impression for the people that everybody around them thinks this stuff's great. Well, no, everybody around them doesn't think this is great because everybody around them is starting to take notice, and even the local news. And I'm really happy coming from somebody who can remember back when we first started talking about these things. It was hard to get 400 people to see it. It's really refreshing to see these people finally getting in, because even Fox 59, that this week they did a story about all the water problems in the Eagle Creek. And because what happened here recently, we have 21 Indianapolis city councils that sent a notice out to Joe Hogsett, Matt Gentry, Jeffrey Harris, a citizen, the Lebanon Utilities, old Ed over there. And they said, telling these people that they want actual studies and actual stuff done. They're not just going to accept that Lebanon's going to come in here and dump 25 million gallons of wastewater directly into Eagle Creek and turn it into a toilet. And then not only is Lebanon at that point going to be the first toilet to tap community, because they just voted to give themselves 5 million gallon a day for the citizens, then all the other communities are going to be drinking Lebanon's industrial, pharmaceutical, and people waste. I mean, because I put out a thing this week, if you ask any amount of programmed AI or anything else, what would people, and you guys ought to try this, and don't worry about that AI. People are like, oh, you can't be against this or that and then still use AI. Shut up, because that is nonsensical. People have been using the other guy's stuff as a weapon against them since the beginning of the time. When you're fighting people, you use everything you got. Don't let other people try to pin you down by these rules or anything else. And I used the thing like, the Allies used the interstate to chase down the Nazis. The Indians picked up rifles, and even down to the first caveman that got a rock thrown at him, he picked up that rock and he threw it back. So never worry about using the other guy's stuff when you're trying to fight them, because that is completely historical. Don't let nobody play that on you. So, but anyway, input all this information into an AI, and they will tell you that, them switching to this citizens water is going to provide more chemicals into the community. They will tell you about the hazards of how poorly waste treatment plants really do it. And this is a good question to ask them. Ask them this simple question. Say, would people be bothered if they knew how poorly waste treatment plants actually work? And the answer is yes, they would probably be very bothered. And why is that? Because people are led to believe that waste treatment plants are better than what they are. And that's just not true. They did pretty well with your natural contaminants coming out of the ground. They had, these new synthetic chemicals and all this stuff. And that's why I said, and that's why and this is just terrifying, that the EPA on all these water systems only regulate the 90 chemicals. When, like I told you, there's 4,800 pharmaceutical chemicals. There's 14,780 forever chemicals and all kinds of other industrial chemicals. And the reason why, and they just tell you the water's clean, even though they don't even test for this stuff. And if you break it down, there's a lot of hazards here, but that's just it. You take that community like Lebanon, they were just sitting there minding their own business. And what really happened to Lebanon? Let's talk about what made Lebanon be ground zero for this giant government controlled development. And for those people that didn't, because those that follow the shop page seen me post it earlier this week. So I posted some of the financials and payments that went to Market Red. And what is Market Red? Matt Gentry, Mike Gentry, have a family business that is consulting, polling, stuff like that in the Politico world. And they've taken millions of dollars from all of these same political groups that they're now greasing the skids for. And that's why I razz them about it. That's why I, make a funny picture of him, call him the kickback king, because these people were prepaid. If you look at all their stuff, I mean, Mike Braun right now has paid them hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you know what? That makes you a pretty good friend now. So Mike will tell you, hey, that was, payments for a service, and there's nothing owed after that. Okay, guys, we live in the real world, and I'll tell you what, big money makes big friends. It always has, always will, and anytime they say that, it's completely nonsense, but it's just their little line. So they've taken all this money from everybody, and I only posted one page of it. I got about 7 more that I was going to post up. I just hadn't got there yet. So you can see all who's funneled money into their little company. And they had another partner, Josh Kelly. And who's Josh Kelly? Josh Kelly is right now Mike Braun's chief of staff. And Matt Gentry's wife's also worked for Mike Braun, may still, I'm not sure. But that's the same thing. They're all intertwined right here. So when you're wondering why all these skids seem to be grease and why they're just going to let them dump all this wastewater in the Eagle Creek Reservoir, it's because they have local connections, and this is something that they've been planning for a long time. You have the Gentrys installed in this area. They've been, look, and I got to give him credit on this one part, at least from the political standpoint. He has spent the last years installing loyalists in every position he could. That's why you see the Corey Coots installed on 4 different boards. That's why you see Keith Campbell in these places. That's why you see these different people in the different spots, because on most of these boards, he's allowed to appoint the lion's share of them. So he gets to appoint 4 out of 7, stuff like that. So he has spent all this time and all these years putting loyalists in all this place. He ran up the city's debt a ton, like 3 or 4 times, buying little bits of friendship here and there. And then you go to make a big move for the state when they wanted to come in here and just develop this whole area, and it all went slick as snot. And why does it go slick as snot? Because they had the Gentrys right here on the inside that had everything set up and ready to make this go down just like that. And, while there's no direct, I'm not saying they took some direct payment from it. I'm just saying that when you do kind of business that has that kind of zeros in it, all of a sudden you're pretty good friends with the people that come and ask for favors. So the people of Lebanon are getting all this new pollution. They're getting all these things that are going to happen. They're getting their way of life ruined. And then all these other people, don't let me forget all the people that drink out of their Eagle Creek Reservoir, that use this area, that live by it, that enjoys that. It's one of the top city parks in the country. And they're sitting there going like, well, we're going to put 25 million gallon a day of wastewater in there. It'll be better. There you go. But that's nonsense. And somebody has to stop this. And I've even been on the X with many of the bigger Republicans posting towards them, because it's like, guys, do you not understand what's going on right now in Indiana? The local Republicans that we have been so bad that there are more groups built up to fight their projects full of conservatives than there are to support them. They are cratered. The last poll I seen on Braun, the dude was at like 20%. They are cratering and that's why you have never seen a more energized Democrat. I mean, today there's going to be 1,000 of them, probably not that. There're going to be 100 of them up there on the square in Lebanon, walking around cheering with signs, 86, 47, all this. They are pumped up for whatever they are. I mean, they may be, certifiably nuts in some particular circumstances there, but at least you can say a lot of them don't want to put pharmaceuticals and industrial wastewater in their water. I mean, they got that going for them. So that's why you've seen me guys sharing from some of these groups like the Sierra Club and some of these other things, because I'm not afraid to agree with the other side when the other side's right. And I think this is one of those areas, because I tell everybody, this isn't a right or a left problem, guys. This is water. I mean, this is a very important thing. And the water wars are raging across this country. Guys, get in the news, search this stuff down. It's everywhere. Right now, the Colorado River supplies water to 7 different states, and they can't agree who has to get cut because there's not enough water. There's 40 million people that are relying, and somebody is going to have to come in and say, this guy right here, you lose. You can't have what you had because, the water shortage. Somebody has to decide who loses. And guys, that is the kind of crisis they're going to rush us into here. And a lot of these times, and this is on a regional level, this makes so much, it's so hard to watch, because a lot of the times out in these western areas, it's agriculture that is the reason why, that pumps very hard on a limited water supply when they do a bunch of irrigation. And that's why I'm always like, when I'm looking at what they're doing here, and it's like, so you guys are literally plowing over ground that doesn't require irrigation as fast as you can. While out west, it's running communities to where people are now not going to get water. I mean, something has to give. They're going bad. Down there in Florida, they said, I can't remember whether it was Tampa or one of them other big cities down there. They are literally looking at, we have no more water. and to rush yourself into these kind of crises as fast as you can. So that the people that are all doing this, and that's kind of what I was getting at. You got the Gentrys and the Brauns and all these people. They don't care about the little people here. They're coming in here. They got a big play. When you're sitting there rolling with the IDC and all these others, what do? They create a lot of action. It creates a lot of loose money. A lot of these people get really fat pockets. And that's how it goes. That's why Braun stopped the audit. He just wanted to give the IEDC a quick rinse and then back to business, because the IEDC has been one of the best groups for skimming money from the Hoosiers that they've ever built. And that's what it does. And that's not just a Republican thing, because but prior to this last election where Braun became, I was asking McCormick and these others about the same thing, and they didn't want to shut down the IEDC neither. They just wanted to control it. So everybody wants in there, but all of this stuff is going to come to a pass, because you guys looking like Wisconsin right now. They just passed the bill to spend $133 million to fight the PFAS chemicals in the water. This stuff, we just said about the Colorado River. This is Florida. It's happening everywhere, and it is going to be the biggest topic of the next 100 years. So people, you guys got to get out there. You got to engage. Right, left, don't matter. This is one of those subjects where we all need to come together as friends and neighbors and people, and the people that want to leave something for the next generation. Because, guys, look around. The water crisis is here. The water wars are started. Allowing these local politicians to start doing things like making people drink their own wastewater and doing these this is not good. They're doing that just so they can make more money, because if they can talk you people into drinking your own wastewater, then that's more water they get to sell to data centers and Eli Lillies and all these different people that want to have high capacity water usage. So just remember, guys, in conclusion, the people trying to push polluted water, air pollution, light pollution, noise pollution onto a community, they're never the good guys. Never the good guys. And, they're people that traded pieces of silver to sell you out. I mean, I don't know what buys each one of them. I mean, you start poking into them, you can see, some own land, some own this, some have other connections in here. Some are looking for political appointments, different jobs. I mean, after the smoke settles on a lot of this, we're all going to have to keep a good eye on where all these people are going, because that's the way these deals shake out. I mean, you seen Holcomb, when he left Indiana there, what he did, all of a sudden he was the head of a big solar company, and he had helped usher that stuff along, because that's what they do. So just remember, them people are never the good guy. They traded themselves. They sold you out, because you don't do that. There's no way you can say that I'm doing all this and that's good for the community. I understand, and I believe in, you have to grow and there has to be jobs for people and different things. But when you put 1,500 giant megaplex, 1,500 acre metaplex data center that's going to have a pollution wafting over the city of Lebanon, that's not a win. I don't care. For 50 jobs, that is not a win, no matter how you slice it up. That's harming the community. And why are they harming the community? Because people butter bread. I think Meta's going to give the city of Lebanon like $1 million a year cash payment that isn't like, some of the funds in the city are earmarked for this. They're earmarked for that. This is a slush fund, and slush funds, people can probably make little pieces of it, help them out. So anyway, as I go into the close of the show here, and I always try to end on a light note. So we do have all them protesters are going to be out. Watch out where you're up by the square, your different things. Them No King people are going to be out prancing around. I seen people in dinosaur outfits and all kinds of weird stuff at some of the other ones. So, just kind of watch out for that. But if there is any hope, because, I'm really not understanding what they're talking about, but now we got that little sweater vest guy there in Lebanon that's just yanking everybody around doing as he please, completely against, the support of the Lebanon people. You can poll it on any board, massively 95% plus against what the things they're doing. But anyway, so if them people up there are really looking for somebody that's acting like a little 2-bit tyrant king, they might check over at the municipal building and keep an eye out for a sweater vest. So anyway, all right, guys, have a great rest of your weekend. I'll see you next week.